Antes de empezar voy a agradecer a los patrocinadores que nos permiten tener estas salas tan bonitas y estos ponentes tan maravillosos y esta cartelería tan guay, los bitcoins y demás. Queremos agradecer como patrocinadores platino a BVA y a CCNCER y a los patrocinadores oro que han sido este año Airbus, Capgemini, Everest, Orange, PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, RSA, Tarlogic y Telefónica. Un aplauso para ellos que nos permiten.
Thanks for this wonderful environment. This is a talk that is great for the place we're in. They're going to talk about film. We have with us Francisco José Ramírez. He has in computer and a master's in safety of the information technologies, and since 2017 works in Telefónica and the team Crazy Ideas and collaborates with Luca. And José Manuel Vera is also a research journalist. He's a co-founder of journals such as Autofácil, One Magazine, One Hacker, among other media, and right now he works with a great team in the publication of Revista SIC, who is a leading magazine. Welcome all. I want to thank Rooted for offering us this space. It is a great honor to participate in the 10th year birthday party, and we're going to talk about movies and hackers. Film can be considered a hacker technology to the extent that it creates an illusion of something that doesn't exist, and it's a passion for us, and it fills us with curiosity, and it surprises us. What we're going to see today is the cyber history of the big screen. Those of us who believe we know about cybersecurity matches these films our expectations about cyber. But before we start, we're going to do a lot of spoilers, and we're also going to have to put up with a lot of pixeling. So some films are a bit old. If you haven't seen them in the last 30 years, then the spoiler effect won't be so serious. So here we have August and Luis Lumiere. We believe they are the first hackers in history. They were two curious researchers. Their father was a photographer, and they wanted to achieve a dream that a lot of people had before, which was to give movement to image. So on the 28th of December is the first day of the history of film. They projected in at a coffee in Paris, a film entitled Train Coming from the City. This that looks so simple to us made viewers run away in terror, thinking that the train was driving onto them. So trains have this is one of the first films of the 20th century, the journey to the moon from Méliès, a movie director who discovered that the Lumiere invention could be considered really more than an attraction, but a great art in history. And who knows if this screen with this train will fill our heads and our homes, and we'll end up living in this virtual world of but in 1951, the first film came about in which computers is one of the main protagonists. Well, it wasn't quite a computer. It was like based on a mechanical machine from Charles Babbage. And if you don't know, it's connected with Ada Lovelace, who this wasn't quite a computer, but it was like the beginning. And it was absolutely necessary because the argument is that the meteorite is going to collide with Earth, and the government says we can't quite believe that, and a group of entrepreneurs decide to launch an airship to try to save as many people as possible. And to calculate the trajectory of the meteorite, they used a computer. It was a differential machine. That was the name they gave it, which was the one that Ada Lovelace was trying to promote. And since then, computers start becoming more popular, not only in societies, because at the time the NASA was using it in the United States, and they were also very common in the nuclear missiles. And one of the films that popularized computers was Destined, with Catherine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy, who weren't then as famous as they would become later on. In this film, Desk Set, where a computer was trying to get the job of Andrew Herford, who was a librarian. And then a film came about, and it's one that you all should see if you haven't seen it, which is Fantastic Voyage, that tells or explains how an engineer thought of making miniatures of things, to the extent that they managed for a submarine to be small enough to be introduced in a person's body, and that means that the Russians and the Americans start fighting to see who can do that, until the American creator suffers a brain problem that can only be resolved by entering his body to save him. So what's funny about the next film is that the biggest computer ever manufactured was shown, the IBM ANFSQ7. It had 60,000 void tubes. It was destined to the control of the Cold War between Russians and Americans. It weighed 245 tons. That was the computer. And talking about the Cold War, for those of you who are interested in AI, hacking computers, this is a film that was a milestone. It was called Colossus, The Forbidden Project. And it says that the United States and Russia delegate all control of their missiles into artificial intelligence, but the problem is that the artificial intelligence detects that the people in charge are not responsible, and both machines, the Russian and the American one, agree on removing control from people. And this is the declaration at the end of the movie, where the machine tells to the American side that they are going to take charge because us humans are going to destroy each other. This was before that, we saw HAN 9000 in 2001, that perhaps was the first one to talk about artificial intelligence in depth. So when are we beginning to do the hacking? Where does the hacking come along? Well, before that, I have to tell you that computers have been great protagonists of all films. And this page is interesting. You have the link there. You need to have time for that. But what it does is it takes all films, and if there is one single screen frame with a computer, then it will list it here. And in Ghost Chaser, the computer is only there for a couple of seconds. And in the Crazy Police Academy, this is the computer you see. So, what about hacking? When did cybersecurity really come about? Well, probably with this film. It's a film that's actually a comedy. It's no drama, no thriller. It was considered the best comedy of the year by the American reviewers. And you will see that the concept of hackers here is not quite like the one we have right now. You see the main characters here, the male protagonist who interpreted also the detective of Agatha Christie, and this is a thief that realizes that through computers can steal a lot of money, and he steals so much money that he then has to run away to Brazil with the secretary. And I like to say that this is the first time that there is a non-authorized incursion into the network, but the computer that you see this was just the Spectra 7 and 50, but this is no artificial intelligence at all. You know that in cybersecurity we always say that we need to be very careful with the insiders who generate 70% of the disasters in many companies. Well, in the year 68, 69, there was a film already discussing that problem, but society at the time, that made people laugh, and it was very popular, the film, and they were big. And that was also the beginning of the hacker image. Do you believe that hackers in movies match hackers in real life? No way. Here we see the hacker from Jurassic Park that blocks everything and launches chaos in the park. He didn't like animals that much. And then we have a much more urban aesthetic in the hackers film, and fortunately, here we have, in the last one we have a superhero, but this is the Bond hacker in your life. So now many films have these hackers and these computers. And women, of course, have also been great protagonists of this phenomenon. We have the main character of a hacker, Trinity in Matrix. And in the last example, perhaps it's not the greatest film, but it's still very popular. Does this match the word hacker? This doesn't make any sense. It's by no means connected to the source or the origin of the hacker word. This is where it all begins. It all begins in the MIT. This is a poem written by a scientist in MIT in 1960. And why is there a train? Well, at the time, the MIT was experimenting with train models, and it was something spectacular for the time, but they were missing some components. I want to have a traffic light here or a junction, but I need this part. So they would go to the telephone box and get a bit of material that they needed, and they would use it for their model plays, and that was a hack. When you were able to take something and use it for something else than its original intendment. So Da Vinci was a hacker, and there are all sorts of hackers. But what happened here? This is a model. This is a real picture of MIT. And what happened? One day they took too many electrical pieces away from the telephone boxes, and they left the whole university without phones. They caught these kids who were stealing these electrical pieces from the phone box, and they said that they haven't done anything. So they immediately thought that it was. This is the article that was printed at the time, explaining that these kids had broken the telephones of MIT. And what you see is it's the very beginning of the end of the hacker world as it was originally intended. And to try to clean up the term, we have invented the terms black hat hacker and white hat hacker. And that comes from the movies. In the Western films, the good guy always dressed in white and the bad guy always dressed in black, and they both had their matching hats, and that's why we have these white hat hackers and black hat hacker. Although perhaps there's a better term, yes, cracker would be a lot better. Richard Stallman proposed it, and he said, stop calling bad guys to the hackers, and let's choose another word, cracker. It's been used a lot in the 80s, but it's got lost again. So the question is if this pejorative meaning of the word started with this film. Because in Spain we have this habit of translating titles, and it happened with the greatest spoiler of the Rosemary Baby, which in Spanish was translated into the seed of the devil. I'm sure you've heard about this film, 1995. I have mixed feelings about this, but there are people who love it, and the technical people like it because it touches upon important topics. But look at that. Their crime is curiosity. And the second one is play in words, boot up or shut up. But in Spanish, they translated hackers, computer pirates. And at the top it says, you thought your secrets were safe, well, you were wrong. So as soon as you went to see the film, everything was spoiled for you. So what is a hacker? I don't know. So the film, nevertheless, has its charm because the main characters would be collecting ideas, and the main character, the writer, the screenwriter, just asked a lot of people in the sector around, and sometimes even wrote something that actually made sense. And there are two books that you have to be familiar with regarding this, and he says consistent things, but the aesthetics, the history. But it is true that it talks about the hacker culture, which and the freak element, which has been part of the culture ever since. And the logo was quite nice, and it has been copied many times. I've been in meetings with Rafa, and this is the logo that they use because they like it. It's beautiful, and hack the planet. It's an interesting concept, yes, and it identifies the save the planet sort of play on those words. So, Fran, there is one film that I will live with forever because as I was a child on my first communion day, I was as a present taken to see a very special film, very popular at the time, War Games, 1983. This film had a great impact in my childhood because I wanted to change my school scores with the computer. I didn't see the film, but I was given the book, and I read it, and the film was quite good, and this is what's what really made an impact on me about this film is that as soon as the film was starting, the kid was going to school and he would stay in a gaming room. And those of you who've been there, you know that we spent a lot of time in the gaming arcades and everything he did, looking for machines through. Yes. Here he's using this computer, and he uses a technique of the time, which was word dialing. You ring phones and you see if a machine answers, and then if it was a machine, you could use a protocol of the time, and that was something that was really often done. And yes, that was done in the United States because you had a flat rate, and not in Spain. You would have gone bankrupt if you did that. So, and here the character or the computer to the right has not monitor and the keyboard, and so but they built it, and Joshua was the computer, and it didn't use a synthesizer of the time, but they used a person, and they manipulated the voice. So what they did, rather than recording all of the sentences, they would sort of scramble it, the human voice, to make it sound more machine-like. Is there somebody who hasn't seen War Games? Everybody has seen it, okay? So you know the genius with this 3 on a row. Yes, the film is also based on, and this goes back like the first ones to the Cold War. This is the second Cold War later on in the 80s, and here they introduce artificial intelligence, and without noticing, they are talking about enhanced learning, which is a machine learning technique, because they were training the machine against itself so that the machine should reach a conclusion. They didn't know what they were doing, but they were actually starting from a base that is now being used, which is enhanced learning. And a final metaphor, which is quite good, the one over here, the best movement is not to play, because José realized that with Cold War there was going to be no winner whatsoever. And the DEFCON, this is the first time I saw this term, DEFCON 1, 2, 3, 4, that later on it became very popular. Well, this one was probably the flagship film of the 80s, but in the 90s, the decade started again with a cult film, a film that also showed cybersecurity in a much more mature way, because it was no longer one person just entering the system of somebody else trying to defend. This was teamwork, very well organized. We're talking about these films, The Sneakers from 92, sorry. I like this more because it's with hacking. Yes, it is a red team, no doubt. And these are different experts. This is Margaret, who's an actor, who is an expert in conspiracies, and at the center is the red team boss. Yeah. That actor has to be the boss, yeah? It's a penetration team, the pen testing, and then the real hacker, the technician, and then at the top there's the person in charge of the management, a former FBI agent, and then the woman who did social engineering. And then there's Sonar, who's based on this person, the blind expert. Steve Bott, for instance, loved him because he got into the hacking area and security, and it even founded Apple with Steve Jobs, because he did this film and went against the whole freaky community of the time. And they said that this guy could actually generate by blowing the right frequency to reproduce the sound of the telephone. Yeah, it's a wild film. The other day when we were preparing the talk, I showed the trailer to my 12-year-old son, and he said, "When is this one coming on?" But it's 20 years old, and you'd be surprised if you see it now because of how contemporary it is. And in fact, it closes with the quotation, the bad guy in the film, Ben Kingsley, who became famous because of the Oscar that they received, but then he's done better and worse films. So he plays the bad guy in Iron Man 3. So Ben Kingsley plays the bad guy in this film, and the end is one in which the Ben Kingsley is supposed to go against Robert Redford, and Robert Redford they start the film being a couple that are trying to steal money from the banks to give it to charities. And in this film, when they have a box that Robert Redford has stolen and they wanted to use to do bad stuff, and it's a box that allows you to, with cryptography, to have access to all codes. And Ben Kingsley tells him this is not just about money, this is not just about power, but what it says here, the world isn't run by weapons anymore or energy or money, but it's run by little ones and zeros, little bits of data. It's just electrons. It's about who controls the information, what we see and hear, how we work, what we think. It's all about the information. And this is 1992. And we're still there. And the film was also supported by technicians, experts. For instance, Adelman, who was one of the guys who generated who set up the RSA, he was one of the advisors of the film. So it has a sort of a very solid scientific basis. And as to the machine, it was able to decipher any cryptographic code. Here I am. That suggests to me quantum cryptography. Yes, but the pocket quantum cryptography.
A great film anyway, but I've been a bit of I've kind of cheated here. In the first The X-Files film, for a few minutes you get a team who are these guys, the Lone Gunmen, just ace guys, like a team like Sneakers that appear in The X-Files. And there's a series that not many people have seen. It's a spin-off from The X-Files, and they're the same. A telecoms expert, a social engineering expert, and then the IT hacker. And it's just amazing. It really is amazing. It's very technical. You do real things, and it looks like reality a lot. So let's go back to the hackers movies. Here we have another one, Pirates of Silicon Valley. We could talk a lot about it, and it talks about the relationship between Steve Jobs and Bill Gates at the beginning of their companies. It's a polemic film because it doesn't picture any of them well. The story of Steve Jobs is supposed to be very aspirational, so is Bill Gates is. And if you look at this film, at this picture, you see what happened. One of them is working, the other one was working. Wozniak was the real Apple genius. He was the one doing the work. Steve Jobs was looking at things, looking at him. But why pirates in the title? First of all, pirates, because they didn't invent the graphic environment, Apple or Windows. They installed it to Xerox Park, who actually created it. And one day Steve Jobs saw Bill Gates got ahead of him in publishing Windows 1.0. So what happened? Very angry, he called him up and said, "Hey, what have you done? You stole from me." Bill Gates, who was the only person who has been proven to stand Steve Jobs, said, "Hey, I haven't done anything." Let's say we're in a neighborhood and I went to steal from a neighbor and I saw you went to steal before me, and that's what happened. And he said it, probably not in that way, but that conversation did exist. So when you look at things, it did happen in Steve Jobs' office, and it was quite amazing. And then pirates, first of all, regarding that theft, and then on the other hand, it was quite common in Silicon Valley to have a pirate flag in teams who created something innovative, and Steve Jobs began doing it with his Macintosh team. He had a pirate flag, and probably things go along that path. And here we have pictures from the film, and this picture is quite interesting. And you were saying, so Steve Jobs was looking, and Wozniak was creating things. So in cybersecurity, there's a level that we always need to know, which is a splendid thing. How many boards of directors do not know that cybersecurity needs to pertain to everyone, beginning by the board of directors? And they don't get to explain that. So one of the abilities of all cybersecurity experts, especially hackers, is the ability to communicate. That's right. It's hard, but sometimes we make it. Well, sometimes doing your best is worthless. if you cannot explain why that's the best option. And I've put this here to debunk the myth of Apple's foundation in garage. That's not true. That's not true. Steve Wozniak said that he had never done anything in a garage, that was just a warehouse. What is true and doesn't appear in the film is that Apple is based on doing something criminal at the beginning. Because remember Joy Babel? He had a friend who was a good friend of the Captain Crunch, and that name came from a cereal box, and inside there was a whistle that did what Joy Babel did. You could whistle like 2600 hertz, and they bought these blue boxers to make free calls, use them at university, but they never really sold them. Maybe some of the beginning, they were mainly exploring these, working with these, and sell them. But they began with this, and due to his machine, Apple really didn't get founded. Steve Wozniak had his machine one day, and he was trying to make a call in a phone booth, and police stopped him and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he thought, "Well, I've been caught, I'm going to prison." He said, "Well, this is a synthesizer." And the policeman didn't know what it was, so he got away with it. And this doesn't appear in the film. I wish it did, but that's the reason that Wozniak did to Jobs when Jobs worked at Atari, and he was asked to do a breakout game from the Atari period. And Steve Jobs was told that for each chip that he could deduct, he would be paid a fortune. And Wozniak did it, but he got paid really little for that. And I'm not taking the merit off of Steve Jobs. He had the world of business, and he had a great vision, and he knew how to sniff things, really. But he does talk about the love-hate relationship of Steve Gates and of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. When Jobs came back from the next company, and next bought Apple, and he went back to Apple, he gave a conference to a new partner. The new partner didn't appear until the end, and at some point Microsoft was the owner of nearly all of Apple. And the people who were there could not see Bill Gates. That was black. The screen was black. And then Jobs said, "Let's see my new partner." And Bill Gates appeared, and people were wooing, saying, "What's going on?" Because he had always been criticizing Bill Gates, but he was eventually the one who helped him. But there's a whole long-standing relationship between Apple and Bill Gates. And we have another film here that has to do with those myths around Microsoft and Bill Gates. I don't know whether you've seen it. It's called Network Conspiration. It's really scary. Remember the main character, Tim Robbins? He's just like Bill Gates. And here, a Silicon Valley executive doing a great global program to connect people through mobile contracts programmers on Silicon Valley. However, behind he is stealing software from programmers and asking people to kill them. So it's like a thrilling reality show. He hires the film star, and he realizes that different people are dying in strange circumstances. Yes, it's a set of circumstances like the hackers film. There are some interesting concepts, and others are quite bad. It's based on Miguel de Izaca, the founder of Linux, and it's obvious that guy was Bill Gates. In fact, at some point, he goes to a house, which is like Bill Gates' house, and there's a picture that changes, and he said, "Well, Bill Gates also drew this." So he's like an idol who changed his whole concept of money, even. Absolutely, not right now he's doing quite good things. So we keep enjoying, and now we go into conspiration cinema. into real hacking and malicious software and backdoor cinema. This is probably one of the most emblematic films. Angela Bennett is the star of the film, starred by Sandra Bullock, who was known by doing other box-hitting films. And she detects viruses and works in cybersecurity, and through a friend, she discovers that one of the software programs that the government of the USA is using has a backdoor that allows doing pretty much everything, according to someone who tells her and who dies in strange circumstances, and then her life is upside down. Her social security number disappears, she loses her credit cards, and the group online that backdoor tries to kill her. But the geeky part, the good part of this, is that she finds the virus creator unassembling the worst end game there. And that appears in the film. When I saw it for the third time, I realized, in fact, what we can see here is real. She's using software to deassemble the program functioning. And this is one of the few films that begins talking about something serious and that brings pictures with real things, not just like Harry Potter magic of creating without touching. So for 1995, just a few days after Hackers and Sneakers, and most films that deal with IT and cybersecurity are from the 90s, and now The Matrix, 1999. Has anyone not seen Matrix in the room? I think this is the king of hackers. No one can be above Neo. He's a reflection of the cyberpunk put to reality. Waking up in a world controlled by machines and hacking it is a reality. At the beginning, the guy is half asleep with massive attack music in the background, and that whole set of computers at 5 a.m. and getting that wake up Neo with that music is just amazing. I'll never forget the feeling. Here we have a bit of a weird scene with a group saying, "Hey, do you have my stuff?" So he gets out some mini discs that you couldn't use for data, they were just audios, but that was cool. I don't know that he was selling viruses, data, or what it was. But zero intellectual property anyhow. And the second part, here we have a very interesting scene. It's a classic, you probably know it. It's the Trinity scene when she tries to get into an electric power station, where she uses the nmap command, and she uses it quite well. And everything there is real, including here a file called SSH nuke, which is an exploit. And this is a sequence, and someone advised him well, the scriptwriter, not just like in Hackers, but these are directed by machines. No, they're managed by machines, but it worked. It's a mythic scene. And the nmap command is a command that appears most. There's a website that talks about the films where the nmap command appears, is most famous one. And let's go back to films that set a story, that have mapped our history. And this film is about Alan Turing's life. He's the so-called father of current IT. It's a pretty recent film from 2014. And here they talk about the story about Alan Turing and how he got hired by the British government to decipher the codes of the Enigma machine, and he creates a machine called the bomb. Well, I could be talking about Alan Turing for hours, and it's not just good because it's an Alan Turing film, but there are some mistakes, such as the bomb machine. He didn't manufacture it. He was pictured here, manufacturing it in a garage on his own, but it was actually an electronics machine. But he didn't decipher the Enigma machine. He managed to automate the decoding process using reversing. The bomber is just inverse engineering to Enigma, but it was the poles who did that. And they're not often mentioned here, so we need to give the credit to the people who really decoded the Enigma machine. Well, the Poles broke it after First World War, and for many years they said, well, the Germans are going to come back and we're going to have a war, and no one paid attention. But it got to a point of automation control that they were able to know what the Germans were sending before the Hitler Central Command. No, it was so automated and quick that they could get there more quickly. But Alan Turing did an amazing reversing, absolutely. And he's the father to me of IT, not John Moore Newman, but rather Alan Turing. Imitation game. There's the name of a paper with the Turing test, and below there is another subtitle, deciphering Enigma, decoding Enigma. But there are films like Paycheck with Ben Affleck that also talks about reversing. He gets machines, he works for a company, he improves them, and then the company sells them back between the real ones. Because reversing a lot. Because some reversing cases may save history in the world. You were probably expecting this film. It needed to appear. And I hated this film. But one day I saw the extended version, you may remember. They get into the spaceship of the aliens and they put a virus. And once I saw the extended version, and they explain it, it makes sense. There's a scene, which is this one that doesn't appear in the original film. The ace who did it just killed it. In the 50s, there was a spaceship that the Americans had, which was the Roswell. But for 50 years, the aliens had been doing inverse engineering, so that they knew how that signal worked. And then Jeff Goblin, a mathematician, got to that machine. They gave them what he had already studied. He got his data. And for a long time, he was trying to decode that signal. And they explained that. But in the film, you see a Macintosh from the time that had 8 megas memory without external connections. And that's probably the most technical bit that appears in Independence Day. It's okay. I had it in my blacklist, but now it's out of it. And we continue. Take down the main star is Kevin McNeil, the most famous hacker. Would he like a film based on his life? Well, a good movie, yes, but this is based on the takedown book by Shimomura, who caught him, and I don't think he likes that. So the documentary, there's a documentary called Freedom Downtime that kind of destroys the film. But well, I think we have another mythical film here with an IT element at the beginning of the film. The programmer who is doing it gets robbed of what he's doing, and he goes to take it out of the actual company. And Tron seems to be fantastic. The people within the inside the computer is like a metaphor. The beginning is like an access or a hacking scene with everything in 3D, but the main message to me is the assault to a corporation to get the information that is yours. In fact, however, in Tron Legacy, you get real commands, and there are several scenes with Linux commands that are true. Kill here. This is a bit blurry here, but these are real Linux commands. The thread or the sequence is not quite okay, but hey, we also like the network, where at the beginning we see that Mark Zuckerberg didn't just create Facebook out of the blue. In fact, in some scene, he gets into the Stanford network computers to do the phase match, which is the beginning of Facebook. So he basically created a database that he shouldn't have access to. Yes, and he kind of explains that in the scene. There's a weird scene in the world of cinema, a hackathon, and a capture the flag with shots, with alcohol shots. And then Superman 3. Why? Because superheroes are cool. Superman 3 is one of the films that people do not take into account in the IT world in cybersecurity. But in fact, it could have been called IT Genius versus Superhero. Because the look this sign of Superman 3. The computer is the star. Richard Pryor has a very funny role of someone who is quite useless, who doesn't find a job, and when at the job center he gets told to go away. Someone gives him a cigarette box to light up a cigarette. It says, earn a lot of money, become a programmer. And that is a film from 1993, so maybe 40 years. So the idea that if you become a hacker or an IT expert, you become a millionaire might be the same. The film was quite well documented. He was stealing money from the company, but he has a problem. He has a low salary, but he drives a Ferrari, so that was quite remarkable. And you mentioned that, The Insider. Yes, here, The Insider. They're angry with the company and decide to kind of play a little joke, which is take 0.0001, something tiny, out of the company. And that is a real technique used for many years, which is like this lines in salami technique. So they get like just a few cents, tiny amounts, but in large amounts, or done many times, it's a lot of money. And I want to do that sometime. Take a computer and do this. Have you ever had this kind of problem? Well, they solve this. So 23. This is a German film that you might not know about, based on the life of this guy, Karl Cox, a hacker linked to the Chaos Computer Club. But it's quite special. Please watch it, you'll love it. It's a 90s hackers film. It's quite good, well done, with conspirations. He was pretty crazy. He thought the Illuminati in the world would conquer the world, and he was obsessed with that. And that is the world with whom he was obsessed, sickly. And he made a mistake of getting into American and Russian systems, selling information amongst them, between them. So you either sell to some or to others, but he appeared in his burning car out of Berlin, dead. And there's a myth out there, which is that he did something with the Chernobyl power plant 24 hours before the disaster happened. Maybe he sold something for the Americans to carry out an attack against Chernobyl. Cybersecurity also got to James Bond in Skyfall, which is one of the biggest James Bond movies. We see it. Technically speaking, the more budget you have, the less documented it is, and they have two classic mistakes, which are the amazing interfaces. In the film, Skyfall, they do something interesting, which is something about a polymorphic virus, and it's running quite well. But when they zoom on the right, the hexadecimal code, you see something weird. Well, something is wrong there. That is not hexadecimal, so it's just rubbish. But hey.
Bueno, Black Hack no podíamos no citarla, es una película muy interesante porque es un experto en ciberseguridad que además está en la cárcel y que le llaman porque
cybersecurity expert who is in jail,
un criminal que ha
and he gets caught because a criminal has managed to create an accident at a power station. He manipulated the stock trade, and even though the film has been deeply criticized because at the beginning he does some sort of visioning of how malware could get into a computer through all sorts of lines. In fact, it is well documented and talks about a situation that unfortunately we're experiencing. Attacks on SCADA systems, black hackers, fighting against white hackers. Well, there's too much action eating the IT bit. That's why they got the Thor actor. Maybe we could take this one out. Operation Surfish. He talks about things that are not quite real. He has mistakes with interface, and there's a failure which is saying what it is, was the secret, and was the coding they use. But that is not reality. They're like, hey, here I am, what's going on? And then there's another scene here. And this looks like a C code with IP addresses next door. And this is pretty crazy. I'm not even going to talk about this. 18,000 monitors with code, that's just impossible. It doesn't make any sense. He creates a fake image of a security technician or a hacker. And I don't think that the movie should deal with cybersecurity. So that he's like calling you, hey, how are you doing? Well, I cannot do this. And then Pi. I wanted to mention this one for sure. It's about a hacker who tries to get a number that explains the whole universe. Pi. He is filmed in black and white. We didn't quite know who was making the noise. Well, we always blame the journalists, that's for sure. So you should watch Pi. It's in black and white. It's got amazing music. And it's about hacking the universe. This is amazing. We need to finish, by the way. So, reaching the end, we love the IoT attacks. But in cinema have two films. One of them is a little masterwork, a very good film, Italian Job, 1969, Michael Caine, great cinema actor. And there, they attacked some traffic lights. Back in 1969. And this has been seen, Israel has had problems, and there have been other cases, and this announces what's going to come. Cinema doesn't just talk about things that are happening or have happened. Sometimes they advance things, we hope will never happen. But in Fast and Furious 8, what the criminal does, who's in charge of the bad guys, is getting into all the self-driven cars in the neighborhood and manipulate them so that they all begin racing towards a car with someone they want to kill. It's like hammer attacks, both in cybersecurity and defense. Those kind of hub attacks will be very difficult to defend, and they're a big challenge. Or beehive attacks. And there's something that has changed in the world of cinema and cybersecurity. We began being mature. We don't just talk about people who get into machines and who defend them, but actually we talk about people who are at the forefront of companies. CISO, executive committees, and here we have Firewall. It's not a great film, but it says, well, why should I steal? And there's a good story. A criminal group goes to the CISO house, kidnaps his family, and says, well, you're the CISO of a bank, you're going to do everything we tell you to, or we'll kill your family. It's a very critical situation, hopefully we'll never experience it, but it is a blackmail, basically. And then in IT, it is not very well known. In fact, the film is quite interesting. The boss of a private jet company delegates in an IT guy that just joined the company, and he's in fact a psychopath criminal. And one of the clear films that is quite common is that he asks for the Wi-Fi code of his home, and he gives it. So the criminal has access to his whole life in the house. And there are conspirations in cinema as well. But what can we say about conspirations? Jungle 4.4, Public Enemy. There's a film from the 60s that already talked about many things regarding conspirations. The 3 Days of the Condor. There's a PDP one here, just for a second. As you were saying, the conspiracy is quite interesting. And the character has a nickname which is Condor. That's the name of Kevin Nickney in all his attacks in his rebellious stage. When he has maybe the CISO that has done worse in Galaxy, the worst cybersecurity expert, is the one who got a hack that ended up his company, the Death Star. Well, he didn't have much cybersecurity. Dumbledore got there, put his connection, and off it went. The doors were open. Well, but in any film, there needs to be something weird. Okay, so let's give the Oscars awards.
Rooted inaugura los Oscars.
So Rooted is opening the Oscars for the first time ever.
El premio a mejor película.
So the award to best film is for Sneakers. I think it's the best film. It's not perfect, but it's the best film.
Mejor película.
Okay, best film, Sneakers. Best script, War Games. You told me what it is, childhood, and this is very personal. It reminds me of my old times. It talks about a very encouraging story. It's great. The great basis in good technique. Okay. Best biopic. Well, The Imitation Game. Just because it talks about talent. It could have been an animated movie, but I would have still given it the best biopic because it's Alan Turing. And if you've seen it, don't say that you're working in cybersecurity. And best hacker, Trinity, just because of the Vietnam map. Seeing and Trinity someone I really like. Okay, and now the anti-Oscars. Award to the worst hacker because some movies are really bad. So the core, they got a mobile with a chip and you kind of magic so out with it. And what film that should have never been filmed is Operation Swordfish. Yes, it should be deleted from the history of cinema. And that's it. That's all from us. Yes, here we have Cary Grant in Rooted, and Roman said that we could get 10 more minutes and we got Cary Grant. We didn't have any more IT-related movies, but thank you very much. Also to Luis, Pepe, and to all my colleagues from the SIG movie, Ana, Fernando, Rafa, Maite. Thank you very much. You have really helped, because since we got this presentation, everyone was talking to me about movies. We didn't mention them all, but we have a challenge for the next Rooted edition. Please go for it and say, hey, do you don't like films? Let's do a cinema script contest. Let's use it here in Rooted. And we can have the award to the best cybersecurity script. Maybe some Spanish expert can do a great cybersecurity film. Since we don't like security films in Spain, I'm sure we will have great things. Well, thank you much. Does anyone have one question for the speakers?
Por favor, sí. Tiene que ser muy cortita, ¿vale?
They should be really short and quick, by the way. Well, you might not like it, but here in Spain, apparently, some films have been made with this theme. Do you have any reference? Open Windows, for example. Yes, he's actually played by a very well-known actor, that also plays Frodo. Open Windows is a good suggestion. Yes, we just couldn't fit it. There are like 1,000 more films. So we have until Rooted 2020 with all the films we have. Well, thank you very much, guys. Thank you. A pleasure.
Una última cosa, nos gusta mucho.
Just one last thing, by the way, we love cinema, hackers, and also music. So we have created a Spotify list, a playlist called Cinema vs. Hackers, Rooted 2019. And there you have many of the big things or films we have.